Hello, everyone. My name is Arum. I've been working with ETS for almost 6 years now. I'm an institutional relations, and today I'm going to talk to you about the GRE general test. As I heard that some of you are going to continue your study to the US, especially for graduate school. So this is one of the tests that usually universities ask you to submit in the admissions process. So I believe you are coming because you want to know more about it, and feel free to shoot us some questions here in the question and answer, and also in the chat if you want to. Today I'll cover some of the part of the GRE general test, the overview, how does the test look like, and the tips if you want to register for the test, and what to expect. I'll also explain what you can expect on the test day when you're doing it, the test at the test center, and also the home test, and tips and strategies. And also I'll share to you some of the resources that might be useful for you. So I'm not sure whether I know that some of you have already done the test, but I did. So I did both. So yeah, if you have already taken the test, I think it's also good to refresh because they do some updates about the test lately. In general, as I mentioned before, these tests are is used around the world, basically for master's program, business programs, law programs, MBA programs, doctoral programs. And if you have ever taken the test, the scores are usually valid for 5 years. So the GRE general test is administered in test centers worldwide, if it's in the test center. In most regions of the world, it's available in a continuous basis throughout the year. So the test itself is delivered on a desktop computer, on a full screen monitor, mouse, and a keyboard. It's already provided in a test center. The test is normally available at more than 1,000 test centers in more than 160 countries. So you don't have to worry. I think we also have test centers in Spain. You can also check the test center locations and the seat availability in this website here. During the pandemic, around 2 years back, when the world was in lockdown, the GRE also launched the general tests at home. So you can also take the test from the safety of your home. It's available worldwide except in mainland China. The content itself is identical, the format is identical, it's still also the same on-screen experience, and you don't have to change the way how you study or prepare for the test. So the payment options are the same, the vouchers, for example, the score skills, if your university wants some scores that you need to submit, score report, and score reporting options. It's also still accessible with extended time, extra breaks, and screen magnifications, selectable colors, and other accommodations available. So what's the difference is, because you are going to do it at home, there will be an online live human proctors. So these human proctors, again, it's human. He or she is gonna monitoring you and recording every online activities that you are doing during the test with the artificial intelligence technology through the ProctorU platform. So it's not that you're doing it at home and nobody's watching you. Still, we have a human live proctor there. So what are the requirements if you want to do it at home? So you just need to have a computer. You can take your own computer. It's either your desktop or your laptop. Of course, it's not wise to use a tablet or mobile device due to its inconsistent connection. There will be Windows or Mac OS that you can also use, and at least Chrome or Firefox browser. And also you need to have microphone and speaker requirements, internal or external microphone, or internal or external speaker, but you cannot use a headset or an earphone. The reason is because we want to avoid any fraudulent activities during the test. And also because this is going to be monitored by human life proctors, there will be camera requirements. This is a built-in camera usually provided in your own computer or your separate webcam if you don't have a proper built-in camera in your laptop. And before the start, you have to show a 360-degree view of the room. So how do you do that? You can do that using a phone, your phone, or you can also do that with your laptop. And then you show around what you have there to make sure that, again, there's no cheatings involved there. So how does the test look like? So the general GRE test consists of 3 sections or structures. The first one is analytical writing, because this test is going to be used or preparing you to be able to sit in a classroom for a graduate program. Of course, the analytical writing level should be on that level of graduate program students at least. There will be 1 section, 2 tasks total, and 30 minutes per task. Again, it should be on the graduate program level. The second part is verbal reasoning. There will be 2 sections involved in the verbal reasoning, 20 questions per section, and 30 minutes per section. I'll show you how it looks like later in details. And the third part is quantitative reasoning. There'll be 2 sections, 20 questions per section, and 35 minutes per section. So there will also be an unscored section. But again, because this is unscored, it's only for the purpose of research. So if you get an unscored section, you will not know which one. You just need to do the whole test. So try your best to answer all of the section. And if you get a research section, it will always be marked class, because this is like unscored, so you don't have to worry about it. The whole section or structure will be around 3 hours, 45 minutes, plus time breaks. So you need to do that within 3 hours, 45 minutes. So let's have a closer look at the analytical writing section. It's to assess your critical thinking and analytical writing section skills. So there are 2 writing tasks. If you remember my previous slide, there will be 2 tasks. So the task will consist of first, analyze an issue. So what you need to do in this task is actually to analyze an issue and develop an argument with reasons and or examples to support your position. The second task will be to analyze an argument. This is to assess logical soundness of a given argument according to specific task direction. So you can type your responses on the computer. So say that responses are typed, and basic functions include inserting text. I'll show you later how the prompt look like. Include delete text, cut and paste, and undo the previous section. The second part is verbal reasoning section. This is to assess your ability to understand what you read and how you apply your reasoning skills. So the questions types include reading comprehension. There will be multiple choice, which means you can select one answer choice, or multiple choice with one or more answer choices, and selecting passages. Basically, you drag the correct answers and the reading comprehension part. There will be also text completions and sentence equivalence. The third part is the quantitative reasoning section. This is to assess your ability to interpret and analyze quantitative information. So because this is quantitative, that has something to do with mathematical models. The question types include quantitative comparison, so it's math, multiple choice for one answer choice, or select one or more answer choices, and numeric entry. It focuses on mathematical skills. I believe this is for engineering graduate candidates. They'll be so happy to have this part, because then, you know, they already mastered the concept of arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. And there will be on-screen calculator available, so you don't have to use or grab your own calculator for that. It's already provided on the prompt of the test. So this is how it looks like, the prompt of the GRE general test. If you could see, there are some section part here. You can accept section. There will be calculator, mark, review. If you want to review your answer, go back and next. So this will be an on-screen calculator here. You'll get a questions, and then you try to process, and then include the your answer. So about the verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning section, this has something to do with section level adaptive meaning. That means the computer will select the second sections of a measure based on your performance on the first section. So each one of the candidates or the GRE test taker will have different type of questions. So for example, if I perform well in my first section, that means I can have a different type of question for my second section. However, if my colleagues, for example, doesn't perform well on the first section, they will get another different question for the second section, depending on their performance on the first section. So within each section, all questions contribute equally to your final score. Okay, so all the different sections that you get during the section level adaptive will not be reducing your score. It's gonna be contributed to your final score. So both sections are important, especially for verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning section, since the final score on each measure is based on the total number of the correct answer and the level of difficulty of the questions. So there are some rumors going on mentioning that, hey, the points are not deducted from wrong answer. So you have to know that your points is not going to be deducted, that's for sure. And it's always better to guess than leave an answer blank. If you're not sure, just pick one and then make your choice there. So this is how the section level adaptation works. The verbal and quantitative reasoning measure are both section level adaptive. Again, meaning the second section here that you receive, can you see my cursor? During the test depends on how well you perform on the first section. So the first section basically provides the challenging content, meaning it contains questions at varying levels of difficulties. If you perform less well, you get a less challenging content for sure. And if you perform moderately well, you will receive moderately challenging content. And if you perform well, you get more challenging content. So moving to the right column here, you can see that your score is determined by your performance in both sections. Of course, if you don't perform well here, right, and you'll receive, if you don't perform here, and then you will receive less challenging content, of course, your score is not going to suddenly higher in test score, right? You will go around here with lower test score. The more challenging content you have, the higher the test probability of the test score that you will get. I hope you can understand it well. Okay, so the score scale is between 130 and 170. So I always suggest candidates, if they want to go or pick a university or a program, please check very well what kind of score, like what score do you need to submit, because usually different university, different program has different requirements of score for the GRE part. So, and then you decide, I know what score the university asked me to submit, and then I want to do the GRE test. What should I do next? Let's see the registration part. Oops. Yeah. So I would suggest, if you want to do the test, the GRE test, you try to register it early, because then it's more likely to get your preferred testing location, date, and time. And also, that means you can have some time to prepare your GRE test based on the timing that you choose. To register, you need to make an account, ETS account. You can go to this ets.org/mygre here, and then you will use this ETS account to register and also to view your official score online when they're available after your test. You can also sign up for the GRE search service. The GRE search service is basically like a platform or a database to show off yourself to schools. So you will be listed as candidates, and then schools will try to find you using this GRE search service. So prior to registration, you should review the GRE information bulletin. If you cannot find it at ETS, you can also Google it. It's everywhere, basically, to check your ID requirements. This is really important, because sometimes I got students didn't match the ID requirements that they use to register versus the ID that they bring to the test center, or that they show when they're doing it at home. So please make sure that the ID that you're using when you register is the same as the ID that you are using before the test. Because before the test, you usually have to show your ID. I would suggest you use passport. So I don't suggest you to use driving license, for example, even though it's European, it's worldwide known, but please use your passport. Here in the GRE information bulletin, you can also check the details of that. If you need accommodations, you can also request it using your ETS account, and please do that at least 2 weeks so that you can get the accommodation, and ETS can provide you with that. Okay, oh, this is the ID documents that I was talking about. So when you create your ETS account and register, you have to have your ID handy in your hand, at least, passport. Each country has specific official ID for testing. And then what the name that you use when you register for the test must exactly match with your ID documents. Make sure that the spelling match, and also the date of birth. Don't use your nickname or your first initial, and supply your entire family a surname. If you have 2-part last name, like the Dutch, usually they have like Peter Van Rij, for example. This is like a two-part last name. So you need to make sure that this is also appear in your ID. After you create an ETS account, you can register. Here you can also see the options for the dates and the place. And then you log in and register and find your test centers and dates, verify your email, and then continue. You confirm your time zone, and then you choose a test date and time, and confirm your appointment details. Please make sure that the email, the login details for ETS account remains saved in properly, because then you will need that to start your test on the test day. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So how do you, okay, you register already. Now you want to prepare yourself, right? Ready for the test. I really would suggest students, no matter how intelligent they are, to get used to the test itself, because sometimes, even though you are a genius in math, for example, but you have never done the GRE test or the GRE trials before, test trials, then you'll probably also end up getting lost of how to do the test, because this is like it's not only the knowledge, but also getting used on how to, the platform even, how to do the test, right? So it's more technical. So there are some strategies that you can do. You can also create basically your own personal test taking strategies. That really depends. How do you want to change your answer, for example, mark questions? I showed you already the platform. If you're not familiar with it, you probably just got confused the first time. I also received some students after they did the test, and they mentioned that they skip part of the trial session. So in the beginning, usually you have to check your microphone, or you have to check your screen, and it didn't work. They just go on, or just keep clicking it, for example, and then they miss one step, and then they cannot really finish the test, because you probably just got cut in the middle of the test, right? So that's why I said you have to do practices a lot to get used to the platform, to get used to the format of the test, the structure of the test, and so on. So usually other graduate level admission tests, they also require you to answer each question in order. So that really depends on you. And sometimes you were not allowed to see or what is ahead or permit you to go back. So you also have to make sure that the test that you are going to take, GRE, is actually the one that you can actually go back and check again your answer. But use that service or like student-friendly platform that GRE provides. Another general tips, again, become familiar with questions, formats, and direction beforehand. And that also makes you easier to be aware of a time, right? Because you're familiar with the formats, and then you do the practices all the time, so you can finish within 3 hours, 45 minutes. And make sure that you understand what each question is asking by reading each question thoroughly and reading all answer choices before answering. I know that I'm a teacher, so I know sometimes we teachers ask you to do skimming and scanning and stuff like that so that you can answer it quickly. But for this type of test, you have to be very wise to read each question thoroughly and reading all answer choices, because sometimes it can be tricky between all the options that it provides. So answer every question, even though you have to make a best guess. So don't leave your sheet blank, basically, and use the knowledge you have to figure out answer with unfamiliar questions. because this task is very much agreed on time. So do not waste time on questions you find extremely difficult. I am a linguist. I'm not familiar with math, for example, and then I tend to just stare at the algebraic questions. Please try to avoid that. If you have to make the best guess, do that. And consider again the time and check the time all the time during the test, since no question carries greater weight than any other. So, and don't spend so much time on reviewing the screen, because this is going to take away and then increase your time to spend on the test questions. And check the review screen before finishing a section to ensure that you have answered all the questions. For analytical writing, review the scoring guides. GRE actually has this scoring guides that you can check which one, if you want to have a good level of content, for example, what type of vocabularies that you can use, what type of systematic writing style that you can use, for example. You can also check it in ETS website, so that you can gain a deeper understanding of how readers evaluate essays. Of course, the essays for graduate program candidates is going to be different than undergraduate students. So you can check the scoring guides on how they evaluate the responses of writing, analytical writing. And practice writing under time conditions, and pay close attention to specific task direction, and also make sure that your essay response addresses the specific instruction. Most of the essays on the GRE part really requires you not only to give the thesis statement, for example, but you also have to provide statistical data that you know, for the supporting details, for example, and then so that you can make your points on your responses. On the issue task, so there are two tasks. Remember that you have to analyze an issue and that you have to analyze an argument. So this is the first part. On the analyzing issue task, you should support your position on the issue with reasons and examples. This is what I mentioned earlier, drawn from your reading, experience, observation, and or academic studies. And then you can leave few minutes at the end of each task to read what you have written and make revisions if you think are necessary. And avoid excessive irony or humor, because this is a very much high level of academic writing for your essay. For verbal reasoning, read passages to get an overall sense of them before answering the questions. Don't really just jump to the questions or options right away, but please read the passages. So you also have to increase your skill in reading comprehension in this case. Answer strictly on the basis of what a passage was and not relying on the outside knowledge. Try to fill in the blanks with your own words and find answer choices that match, and identify words and phrases that seem particularly significant. So if you want to try and find out how actually the reading materials for GRE look like, you can actually, the GRE reading comprehension questions actually assesses the test taker's ability to identify purpose and main idea, specific points made in a passage, and recognize assumptions underlying a passage argument, and draw inferences and conclusions, and evaluate the passage logic and rhetoric. So in order to support questions that assess these skills, GRE reading comprehension passage has to be logically and rhetorically complex. It cannot be merely a collection of facts or assertions. So it should be containing all of these, at least these 5 abilities of reading comprehension. So if you want to prepare yourself, you can also find materials, you know, and get familiar with all the materials, such as here, specialized academic journals. You have to start getting used to it, or maybe you have already written one. That would be great too, so that you understand how the writing, analytical writing is going, you know, if you want to create analytical writing, and also to support you with the reading comprehension, especially for the GRE. You can use academic journals, for example, feature articles in newspaper. I don't really suggest this one, but if you want to start, you can start with this. You can start with the New York Times, the Guardian, the Economic. I highly suggest you to check the academic journals, especially the science one, for example, so that you can also increase your data, data intake about specific topic. That might also be useful when you write. Trade books by experts and journalists for general audiences. Sometimes the textbook and popular periodicals do not demonstrate this kind of complexity in GRE reading passages. So I would suggest at least these three up there. You can use that to get familiar with type of reading comprehension appeared in GRE general test. So this part is the fun part. This is the quantitative reasoning tips and strategies. I remember some students from engineering, I think in Zurich, came to me. They said, like, it's too easy to do it, the quantitative part. So can you increase it? I said, okay, because I mentioned I'm not really familiar with math. I was like, oh, okay. So I don't think I agree with them, but yeah, you can also maybe agree, maybe disagree with them. But let's see. The tips and strategies for quantitative reasonings. Geometric figures may not be drawn to scale, so you have tried to avoid estimating sizes by side or by measurement on each such figures. So try to draw your own diagrams and or figure. Maybe you were not used or you haven't taken this test. There was some of question where you have, so there will be like passages, and then you have to try to translate that into your using your own diagram or figures. That would help. Because it's easier for you then to process or to make calculations of this question. So, or you can also make a list to help sort out what the question is asking. I find it really helpful personally. And also, when appropriate, avoid lengthy calculation by rounding numbers before computing an estimate, by looking for comparison, and by recognizing and continuing numerical pattern. Evaluate your progress and switch to a different strategy if you get stuck, or if a solution seems to require an inordinate amount of time. After arriving at an answer, reread the question to make sure that your answer is reasonable. I think nothing's wrong with rereading questions, right? As long as you have a good amount of time to do it. So you can also check additional problem-solving strategies here in this website, ets.org/GRE/quant strategies. Okay. So after you did the test, so how do you want to get your scores sent to? Okay, so these are the scores: analytical, verbal, reasoning, quantitative. 0.6 in half-point increments, 130 and 70. This is the scale. In 1-point increments, and 130 and 170 in 1-point increments. So you will get your unofficial scores at the end of the test right away. So after you have completed your test, you will have the option to first cancel your scores permanently, which is not recommended because then you will not get any scores, right? Or you can report or view your unofficial scores. So if you choose to report your scores, you will see your scores for both verbal reasoning and your quantitative reasoning, because it's easy. It's the AI can help GRE test takers to count them, right? So your score for analytical writing somehow, because it's impossible to create geometrics, create quotes on that. So it will not be available right away for the unofficial score, because then we need raters to check your scores, human raters, and also machines to help. Okay. So this is how it's gonna look like, the unofficial test score. Your verbal reasoning, this one is 160 out of 170. Qualitative reasoning is 160 out of 170. Okay. So after your viewing your unofficial score, at the end of the test, you will be asked to Dyson it up to 4 score recipient. You can do that using your ETS account. So those 4 score report are part of your test fee. So you can select the university where you want your score to be sent. So we don't recommend university to receive scores from students or candidates, because there are some fraudulent activities that might be going on there. So ETS will forward your scores to the choices that you made here for the recipients of your score. Okay. So on your test days, you will get 4 free score reports, and they're all available, valid for 5 years. And after test day, you still can change it. Some schools want to see applicant scores from all GRE tests they have taken. So for example, this is not your first GRE test. Some schools want to see your track for GRE. So we suggest you to check with the school to which you are applying for their requirements. Okay, and you are the one who can decide which scores to send. Okay. So this is the prompt of the choosing or the score recipients look like. So you can add a score recipient here. You can type GRE ID of the university, or you can just type a name of university or the program that you want to get into, like this. So for example, I want to go to Turkey. So there are so many. This is the ID that I mentioned to you. You can check at the university or the program. They have usually a DI code, we call it, designated institution code, that ETS provide to them. And then I can go and then I can insert the code here too, if I know the code. Okay. So here, that person is going to go to Mugla University, and then the department that she's choosing is math. And then because she has taken so many, for example, GRE tests, she wants to check, please send the most recent option. That would also be, this is what I mean, you can choose the score that you want to send. Okay. So your score are reported to you 10 to 15 days after the testing. So you have to wait, because they need to be scored, right? Especially for the analytical writing. So the scores are available for you to view online in your ETS account. And you can also print a personal copy. And also you can order additional score report. If you think the 4 option, free one that we provide before is not enough, your scores are reported to the institution that you have designated, and or after the test day. So your analytical writing essays also available to your institution to review. The reason is because sometimes graduate program admissions officer, they want to see or they want to select their candidates based on the quality of their analytical writing, especially I think for doctorate programs. But then what if my score, doesn't really comply with the required one by the university? Of course, you can take the test again if you want to. You can take the general test once every 21 days, up to 5 times within any continuous rolling 12 months period. So I don't really suggest that. So I wish you could just pass it from one take that you are planning to do. There's also this diagnostic service. If you think you already prepared for the test, you want to see how you perform, please do take this one. So this is if you want to know more about your performance on the test that you took, you can access it through GRE Diagnostic Service from your ETS account. So this diagnostic task service gives you information on how you did on your verbal reasoning and quantitative reasoning on the test you took. And you can also see a summary of questions that you answered right and wrong, and the difficulty level, whether you are have a very difficult one on your section adaptive task. So this is how it's gonna look like. You've got questions, or you answered right and wrong here, and time spent how long, for example. You can also see it here, whether you spend so much time in quantitative questions or writings, for example. So, okay, and this is also how it looks like for the quantitative reasoning, basically. So how do you want to prepare? I have to be quick here. So there are some options you can do. I would suggest students to get familiar with this. This is a free GRE task. It's free. So go to this list here, or you can go to this website, ets.org/GRE/prepare. We've got several tools here. Power Prep tools. This is to help task takers familiar with question types, task features, and help the tools to be able, you can use that during the test. There's also online practice tests. This is pretending that you are doing a task now and you are simulating it to the actual task. And it provides a score on the verbal reasoning and quantitative reasonings. There's also GRE math review. This is the 100-page math refreshers with definition, properties, examples, especially for those who are not coming from quantitative, study program, for example. You can also find it really useful here. Or math conventions. This is for getting used to mathematical notation, symbols, terminology, and stuff. Please do go check here and make use all the free task prep of the GRE test that we have. There's also this additional practice here. You can also buy books. This is terms of books, quite a thick one. Official guide for GRE tasks. You can also do it manually if you want, reading comprehension. You can also read it there. And you can also practice on the math here in this book and verbal reasoning here. And you can also have it analytical writing practice here. Okay. And also here, we also have information bulletin. This contains all the details that you will need for the registration, task prep, task day, getting scores, and also most for the current testing year. There's also a bulletin supplement for task taker with disabilities. Please do read it if you think you need some accommodations. So this PDF contains information for the test takers with disabilities, with health-related needs, and how to register for the test to get a special accommodation. We also get institution and fellowship sponsor approved to receive GRE scores and stuff like that here. Yeah, connect and engage, because I think we also have GRE videos on YouTube. So when I did the test, the GRE, I did YouTube a lot on how to do the GRE test. So I mean, the generation right now, information are everywhere, right? You can also find in YouTube. We also share some tips and tricks in Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Yeah, if you are in China, they usually use Weibo or WeChat here. There's also a new one, which is just launched, I think, 2 weeks ago or last month, I forgot. So this is GRE Mentor Score. If you think you are not really like a self-paced study, you know, you cannot do it by yourself, GRE actually provide GRE Mentor Scores. This is the platform that helps you, what is it? Provides you with authentic practice questions, explanations, answers, and skill building content. So it's available everywhere. Basically, you can Google or put here the link here. So you can also do that in your smartphone, tablets, and then do the practice again and again. This is like a self-paced one. There's also a level where you can get a mentor for this one, and also offers flexibility to follow a structured learning plan and skip modules because you want to prepare for the test, and there are also some time that you have to limit yourself in preparation due to the test date that you are going to take, right? So yeah, I think that's all. If you want to know more, go here. There are information everywhere here in the website of ETS. I think that's all. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.